Hi there. Um, Welcome to this video. And today I want to talk a bit about, Ayurveda and yoga, like all my videos for the most part. Um, but specifically, Ayurveda's take on seasonal changes through the year and how we respond to them, how we respect them, honor them, notice them, and some practices to help us through these seasonal changes. Ayurveda in general puts a lot of emphasis on the rhythms of the day, the year, the season, and lifetime, cyclical nature of all of that. So of course, we have the night and day, circadian rhythm, and which Ayurveda breaks the day down into two sets of three sections governed by each dosha, right? So we have, say, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. kapha, 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. is pitta, and then 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is Vata, and then it's 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Kapha, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pitta, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is Vata again. So it kind of goes back and forth, and that's a video for another time. Um, but there's also the annual, sort of the seasonal changes, and again, we're used to four, and Ayurveda tends to work in threes, because of the three doshas. So they don't the demarcation between seasons doesn't land the way it does in Ayurveda. Um, in Ayurveda, it does not land the same way it does in our normal, solar calendar. So um, right now, late fall into winter is a Vata time of year, and it will stay Vata until the end of winter into spring when it becomes Kapha, and then midsummer and through early fall is Pitta, roughly. And so you have these three seasons, but you also have these extended transitional times, right? When fall goes into winter, when winter goes into spring, when spring goes into summer. And there's a time where the dominant dosha begins to kind of wane, and the new dosha starts to rise and accumulate, and maybe even eventually become like an aggravated dosha. So the seasonal change uh, times are kind of drawn out, and our bodies feel it, right? Your body knows when the nights are longer, the days are colder. Right now, even though it's raining like crazy where I am, we get a lot of water, thankfully. Um, it's still dry. My skin is dry, my hair is dry, my eyes are dry. Um, my voice might sound a little dry, and that's just the Vata nature of this time of year, right? Vata is dry. It is highly mobile. It moves a lot in every direction, and it is cool. It's on the colder side of things. Wind is cooling things off. And it is light. So the opposite of heavy or dense, light, like airy, and imagine, if you will, a gust of wind blowing into a pile of dried leaves on the sidewalk, and the leaves just go everywhere, right, all over the place. No real direction, just all over. That's Vata for you. And so, as in a Vata time of year, those sort of external things happening in our life, then we balance that in Ayurveda by doing the opposite, right? So in Ayurveda, we have like things increase other like things, and opposites balance or decrease each other. So if it's airy and mobile, if it's cold and light, and it's you know uh, just kind of all over the place, we're going to look for practices that are the opposite. So we want grounding practices, warming practices, and not moving so much, more stable, stability. So we can do that in terms of diet, and that's a separate video I have if you want to watch that a little bit. But for now, we're going to talk about asana and the asana practice for a Vata time of year. So we're going to find poses that are grounding, and then we're going to hold them. We're not going to move fast. We're not going to cycle through a bunch of vinyasas. We're going to kind of find poses, hold them, live in them. We're going to explore a certain stillness and depth in the asana pose, but it could still be warming. It's going to be you know asking something of us, um, And also, Vata, the seat of Vata in our body, the place where Vata lives, is the colon, the large intestine. So it's down low. And so a lot of our poses are going to involve pressure there. So either seated, twisting, stuff that happens in the low part of the belly is typically pacifying for Vata, is what we're going to call it. So we're trying to stop any Vata aggravation and bring Vata into balance. And in a sense, you kind of look at it like, oh, well, if we increase Kapha, then we're decreasing Vata. It's not a perfect relationship like that, but roughly that's it. So, we're going to do things that are warming, stabilizing, grounding, yeah, and dense, heavy kind of. So, that being said, what do we have today? We have yoga mat and bolster, blocks, strap, blanket, and we'll get started here. So I'm just going to change my camera angle and we'll get going. Okay, so I'm going to start as we often do in my classes. We're going to put a blanket on our mat for a variety of reasons, not the least of which we want to be able to slide a bit on our yoga mat. Almost fell over. So a blanket on the mat, highly recommended. You could also just do this on your carpet if you're home. And I'd say have a strap, have a block or two close by, and a bolster or a couch cushion would be fine too. So let's just start off on our back. And I suggest, okay, so yeah, we're talking like cold winter time, etc. Go ahead and warm your room up if you can, space heaters or fire up the furnace, the wood stove. You want to be warm, not hot. It's not hot yoga. We're not doing Bikram, but 75, 80 degrees if you can get there. And also, depending on you and where you live, maybe do this near a window so your body just registers some natural light or natural darkness, right? Whatever's going on, just let your body get that cue of the time of day and the seasonal stuff. So, okay, so my room's fairly warm, 75 probably degrees in here. So I'm going to go ahead and come down, and you could also do this practice in like a nice warm sweater, and maybe have your socks on for starters. And so we're just going to come down. We're going to start with some basic somatic kind of movement. Again, thinking of Vata is in the colon, and we want to pacify Vata. So we will do so. So we're going to take our arms into a goalpost shape, elbows to the floor, and then backs of hands down, just like so. Taking our feet to the floor with the knees bent. Now let's just go ahead and arch the low back, and it's going to be that first little bit of pressure in the low abdomen, right? So arch the low back, and the chin tucks. And then we bring the back down, chin rocks away, and maybe the tailbone lifts just a bit from the floor. And just cycle through. Inhale, arch the back, tuck the chin. And exhale, back comes down, chin rocks away. And just cycle through just like that. I start so many classes this way. And I start my own practice at home this way. And it's just a wonderful, very gentle movement to warm things up and get the spine moving, to undulate the spine if you've been sitting all day or standing, just to bring some nice movement there. And it's also, to boot, right, we're talking about, Vata being dry. We want to increase the liquid aspect of our practice. And you can kind of see how this is like a pumping action, right? You rock on the cranium sacrum one way, and then you rock the other way, and it's actually very much literally pumping the fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid is moving when we do this, and that's going up and down the nervous system, out into the body. So a few more rounds. And you can release that movement when you're ready. We're just going to add a little twisting movement in here as well. So I'll extend my right leg on the floor, left foot down, left knee bent. Take my left hand and just lay it on my chest, my shoulder, kind of chest, pectoralis muscle, wherever it lands for you is fine. And then I'm going to extend my right arm out to the right, palm up. And just a bit of another pumping kind of fluid twisting movement. Inhale, we're going to tip and roll onto our side body, this left hand here, going to travel across my chest and down my right arm until the palms come together or close to coming together. This left knee keeps pointing straight up at the sky, right? So there's an opening happening here in the hip. And then exhale, return, and you take this hand and just draw it up your arm, maybe even give a little squeeze there. Move some lymphatic fluid towards the heart where it gets, cleaned and drained and fixed up and dealt with, I guess, right? And off we go again. Inhale, tip and roll to the side body. Slide the left hand to meet the right. Left knee points at the ceiling. And exhale, return all the way back. So let's just do a few more. If you're doing this at home, once you've done the video and you want to do it on your own, you can certainly add more cycles of everything, but just in the interest of time, we're going to kind of move along here. So about 5 times on one side, not being a great model here. In general, we want to try and keep the head on the floor through this movement. So you're rolling across the skull. And return back to neutral. Extend the left leg, extend the left arm, right foot down, right knee up, and right hand to chest, and 5 times on this side. Same. Inhale, tip and roll, and reach and extend. There goes my head popping off the floor again. And back we go. 1. It's about 5 cycles through. That right hand stays in touch with your body the entire time, right? It's as we draw it back, it draws up the arm. As we tip and roll, it stays on the chest and then travels down the arm. And maybe even slides past the left hand if that range of mobility is there for you. It's a 3rd round or so there. 4th round. Maybe I jumped in and went at 6th, but I don't know. Here we go. Last time through. And return back to neutral. So go ahead and extend legs on the floor, arms down by side. And just breathe here already. Maybe there's some new sensation arising. Notice what you feel. And just breathe. So, let's go ahead and just hug both knees into chest. And we'll just, again, a little compression in the lower abdomen. And squeeze in if you want to rock from side to side a few times. Or Apanasana. Go just like find some stillness help out there. And it's also known as wind relieving pose. You might find out why if you stay here long enough. And releasing feet back down to the floor. And let's take our arms out by side, picking feet up off the floor, knees over hips, and just double knee twists, right? So we tick-tock, we don't go all the way to the floor, not just yet anyway, up and over, back and forth a few times. And yes, it is movement and mobile, but it's building some heat. And it's also twisting the abdomen, right? So the seat of Vata is getting some action. So there's several rounds, and then when you're ready, let's go ahead and just take the knees up and over all the way to the right, and just let the knees come down. You can take your right hand and just rest it on your leg if you like. Breathing here, the left arm might extend out to the side, palm up, and perhaps even turning your eyes, turn your gaze to the left. And it's not total going to sleep time here. There is some action. So there's a bit of a drawing in of the lower abdomen here. A little bit of arching of the back. And you can use this hand to give a little extra push down into the twist. And that left arm, left shoulder is finding the floor. Right? So there's some activity here. And good measure, bring feet into flexion. Draw toes back towards shins. And breathe here. A couple more breaths. Again, this pose, there's some twisting and there's a lot of grounding. We're staying on the floor. Let your weight come down. And hand comes off the leg if it's there, and we sort of gently unravel the pose, turning eyes back towards ceiling. Make some alignment changes as you need, and we'll go to the other side. So right arm extends, knees tip to the left, and maybe the left hand lands somewhere on your leg just to give a little extra grounding action there. And so if you look, if you can see here, I don't know if it's easy to see in the video, my left shoulder has popped off the floor. So I want to get that shoulder blade down to the floor. And that brings in a lot of this twist right in here, right? So the hip and the knees are going one way. There's a pulling of the ribs and shoulder the other way. Arm extends, and maybe you turn your head. That's really only if your neck is okay with turning this much. But again, look for some stillness, a little drawing in of the navel, drawing in of the low back. And just be in the pose. And another breath or so. Feet in flexion. Letting the head come out of the pose first, and then swivel the knees up. Realign on your mat. Another quick hug in. And then land the feet. And let's roll over. Turning on hands and knees. And I guess when we're here, hard not to just do some cat-cows. So let's go ahead and do that. And just cycle through, arch the back, and then round the back. And that rounding is from crown to tail, as well as from left shoulder to right shoulder. Cycling through at the speed of your own breath. Another pumping action, similar to what we did earlier. And release that movement. So let's go into a child's pose, a particular type. So big toes touch, knees nice and wide. Let's take our hands to the gripping the rails of the mat and just set the hips all the way back, all the way back. Right? And we're using this sort of grip on the mat and the placement of the arms to sort of accentuate, right? Feels like I'm trying to pull the mat like that direction is how I feel it. Other people see it as pushing. I feel it as pulling. But anyway, it's letting the hips kind of sink even lower and really closing that gap in the low abdomen, top of the thighs. You can rest your forehead to the floor. If the floor is far away, maybe to a block or some other support. And again, there's still some action here, right? We're still keeping the arms engaged. I'm just going to hold the pose for maybe a minute. I do like having the forehead touch down, again, just for that grounding quality. That third eye touching the earth, or the pillow, or the block, or the book, or whatever. Symbolically touching the earth. Keep the arms alive. Might even feel your armpits kind of lift, little buoyancy in the armpits. A few more breaths. And releasing slowly. Let's come forward into like a sphinx pose. How about? So legs, hips down, tops of feet down, arms parallel to one another, forearms on the floor, right? How about chin starts tucked, right? We sort of lift up in the shoulders and the heart. There's a bit of a dragging of the elbows towards the hips. And so you're going to slide forward and then just lift the gaze, looking a bit ahead of you, just a few feet ahead, trying not to overdo the neck right here. How about the legs strengthen? You can really engage the legs. The knees might even lift off the ground. And there's some pressure from the lower abdomen pushing down into the floor. And just breathe here. And I'm not frozen. The video hasn't stopped. I am actually still here. We're just holding. And again, we're finding that stillness, which lets us look a little more deeply, into the dark waters there, the deep fluid body. Go ahead and release, relax. Forehead can come down to the floor. Taking a few breaths here and let the back body benefit from the massage of the breath, right? That sort of stretch and release and stretch and release. Go ahead and push on upright. How about we sit onto our heels? This kind of shape, thunderbolt pose, right? So we're sitting back on the heels. Now this can be super intense for some people. So you might want to pat it a little bit as we're a bolster, or you could roll up your blanket and just place it right here between calves and thighs. Sit back. But if you can manage a couple, handful more breaths here, sitting on the heels, toes curled under, go right for that. Then rising up off of there, clear the deck. I think I'll take my blanket off. If you have a blanket on your mat, you might want to peel that away at this point. Set it aside. And let's go ahead and take how about left foot forward, right knee stays down. You might want to pad the right knee with a blanket or a folded over mat, something like that. Coming upright. Nice and tall spine here. Hip over knee. I'm going to take my right arm up, probably going to go off camera. Inhaling that right arm way, reaching up to the sky, left hand's right just on hip, okay? I'm going to twist. I'm going to bring right elbow to the outside of the left knee and maybe bring the palms together right around the sternum. Kind of finding your twist. If you're not too warmed up, don't push too hard. Just kind of find your pose and stay in it for a bit. And then maybe there's a bit of a lunge to the front. Here we are in the twisted pose. So this shoulder moving back, right shoulder coming forward, still long spine in our twist, right? We rise out of the pelvis through the crown and just hold. You can make some little adjustments coming deeper into your twist if you like. I suggest for this work, maybe the eyes just kind of stay pointing where the sternum is pointing. We don't need to take it all the way up, right? So I think staring up into the sky, accentuates the Vata piece, accentuates kind of a disconnection from ground. So in fact, maybe we'll even take our eyes to the floor. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, eyes to the floor in front of your foot, twisting deeply. Breathing here. We're going to hold this pose 8 more breaths. And it's more about the twist than the lunge, but you just kind of want to navigate both. About 3 more breaths. Still growing tall in the spine. Gently coming up, rising up out of the pose, and switch it over. I'm going to turn around just so I can keep facing the camera, but you don't have to do that. So we'll go to right foot forward, left knee down. Again, no shame in patting that knee. Go ahead. No reason to suffer. Okay, starting off, rising up, hands on hips. Left arm reaches up. Exhale, twist, elbow to knee. Well, it could also be hand to knee if that's right for you, right? Don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. Elbow to knee. Palms maybe together, prayer. Eyes, let's take our eyes downward right out the gate. And if you want to lunge, just come forward into your lunge. But remember, we're going to be here for a minute, so make sure it's all manageable for you. You're here for the long haul. And when we're in these poses, you adjust as you go, things loosen up and certain other aspects become more available. Also want to point out this right knee is a little past my ankle, only permissible because the left knee is down, so our weight is mostly on the floor. If that left knee was up off the floor, the right knee would stay over the right ankle or behind it. A few more breaths. Eyes softly downward. Extend spine from pelvis through head. Last 2 or 3 breaths. And slowly come on up and out and untwist. We'll go back to that thunderbolt pose. Knees down, sit back on heels. Breathe here. Let your hips settle downward. I'm going to transition towards standing. So hands come out in front from hands and knees. So from hands and knees, maybe take a nice little cowie action first, and then can walk your hands a bit forward, prepping for downward facing dog, and really connect through the hands, right? We're grounding today. Hands are part of that. So just really let the kind of ball mound of the index finger there, the ball of the index finger, really stays on the floor. There's some connection through the earth. In fact, maybe even feel before we come up. Just kind of feel that projection of energy down from your shoulders, through your arms, through the pits of the palms of your hand, going right down into the earth. Find those roots and then let them stay there, giving you stability through the pose, right? So when you're ready, the knees can lift and the hips start to lift and push back, and the knees can stay bent, right? Finding that rooted connection through the hands. And just stay here perhaps. And if you want, maybe stretch one leg, bend the other, and switch. That's where my voice gets funny, as my sinuses respond to being upside down. Yeah, same. Adjust your hands as needed. Find that root connection through the palms. Press through the hips, up to the sky. And again, there's that folding at the abdomen right here. And then walk feet to hands. Come on up halfway, extending through the crown. Hands can come to hips, knees bend, and we'll just come up to standing. Let the hands release. And just take a few breaths here, noticing the sensation of standing, any fluid shifts or any movement inside the body. And then release Tadasana. So just to kind of encourage some grounding through the feet here, we're going to kind of soften the knees, lift the toes, hands could just be on hips. Okay, and we're just going to push down into the mound of the big toe, the mounds of the balls of the feet to re-straighten the legs. And again, bend the knees, kind of sink down a bit. I like to lift my toes for this, helps me with the directional energy. And I press down as I'm squishing a seed under the ball of my big toe. Right, the balls of the feet. One more time, bend the knees. Re-straighten the legs. And again, maybe you feel like a connection flowing through the hips, all the way down through the femurs, the calves, the shins, through the bottom of the arch of the foot into the earth, such that there's so much connection there that if you got pushed, it would stay put. The feet are rooted, firmly and stably rooted. Take a few breaths there. And then once again, hands can come to hips. We're going to come into a chair pose. So as you're ready, we're going to lower down into our chair. We're going to stay there. Again, pretty good pressure right in here. And also wake up, all sorts of big muscle groups get to work on this one. If you want, inhale the arms up. Kind of a bow on the top of the pose today. For that one, don't have to do it, but always good practice, right? Open the heart, shoulder blades squeeze, and come on up to standing when you're ready. You're going to shake it out, walk it out. Any movements that feel good. We are not done with chair, so just prepare yourself. Here we go again. So, hands maybe to hips. Inhale, we grow tall. Exhale, settle down into your chair. Breathing here. Again, we're building some heat, but we're also finding stability, stillness, and depth. And if you like, arms come up. Holding here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, eyes to the floor, 4, 3, settle into your chair, 2, 1, and push up, back to standing. And any movements that feel good again, step it out, walk it out, shimmy the hips, tap the muscles. I do love muscle tapping. That's kind of grounding in its own way. Kind of connecting mind to quadriceps, for example. Okay, still not done with chair. Finding your position here. What was the classic is kind of like toes touch. I don't think that's all that advisable for many of us, but toes, feet are close-ish, hip width, maybe a little less, right? And when you're ready, settle down into your chair. We're going to add a little something to this one. So we're in our chair. Let's go ahead and swing the right arm up by the ear. Big inhale there. Exhale, twist. Down into your chair. Hands to prayer. Left shoulder's coming back over right. And again, eyes to the floor. Grounding. Breathing here. We're not folding, right? We're not jumping over. The heart still lifts. Breathing here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Untwist and stand up. Hands down. Shake it out. Preparing for the other side, which will be the end of our chair sequence once we do our twist to the other side. So again, when ready, into our chair we go. Inhale, left arm reaches tall, long spine. Exhale, twist down into your chair. Twisted chair. So my eyes are like right about here, not right in front of me. They're sort of kind of following the direction of my chest, but they are softly gazing at the floor, at my drishti. This top shoulders coming back. And still extending spine from pelvic bowl through crown. Breathing here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Untwist and stand up. You can even take your hands to your glutes. Slight back bend. Let this sort of front pelvis open up. Front of the hips. And release that. All right. And coming back down to the floor, I'm going to do pigeon pose, but we're going to do like an upright version. So there is still some strength, some heat building. So I think I'll just take left foot forward, right foot back, right knee down, pigeon pose, right? So hands down. If you're not familiar, right, it's the shin is on the floor, the knee, the shin, the ankle on the floor. This back foot is going to walk back. I'll turn this way just so you can see the shin position. All right. So here we are. This is kind of the front look on it. Shin to the floor. Shin, can be kind of parallel to the front edge of the mat. Most likely it's not. Just pivot that foot in a bit, right? So there's an angle to the shin. Pad your knees as you see fit. I'll go back to the front. Okay, so here we are. We're on our knee, on our shin. Back foot's walking back. I like to have my toes tucked like that. A lot of people prefer this. This to me feels just unstable and shaky with the top of the foot down. So I do keep that toe tucked for the most part. And this might be plenty, just right here. Keeping a nice tall back. This right hip tends to want to open back and reach back, and we draw that right foot. It's like you're dragging your right knee on the floor forward just a bit, dragging your left knee back, and then become upright. Maybe your hands just stay here. Maybe your hands are on blocks. It's fine. Blocks are great. I have them over here. They're just not within my reach, so I'm going to live without them, but definitely put some blocks into your hands if you like. If you want, take the arms up, interlace behind the head, open the heart, open the elbows. And so you're rising up, right? We're not collapsing into our pigeon. I'm going to be here for 8 breaths. You can reach your arms up if you'd rather. 3rd breath. 4th breath. Halfway there. 6th breath. 8th breath. Hands come down if they're skyward and come into your folded pigeon. Okay, so just this one everybody seems to love, right? Coming down to elbows. Again, blocks under elbows would be fine. You might go for the extended foot in the back there, top of the foot down. And you just kind of fold, fold, fold. Forehead to blocks, forehead to hands, pillow, floor. But watch this. If you look here, I'm not coming down to the floor, right? I'm not just trying to mush myself down. Still some energy, right? Still kind of drawing that right knee forward, the left knee back, and it's going to lift me up off the floor just a bit. That muscle engagement will help keep everything secure. This is pretty intense on the joints, which, are a big part of kapha, the lubrication, the moisture, and the oiliness, right? We want to keep our joints healthy in a dry time of year. So we're making sure they're strong,
And then rest the forehead. Breathing here. And last breath or two in this pose. And come out very gently, very slowly, mindfully, right? Rising up. And we'll go to the other side. So we're going to bring the right knee forward, swing that right shin forward. Start walking the left foot back. And it's always a bit of a dance to find the right spot for you. I'm going to grab my blocks so I can show this sort of modified with blocks for support. Leg position, basically the same. Not just basically, it is the same. So I'm just going to put some blocks under my hand. That makes that lifting pretty available, right? And maybe even tall blocks. Nice tall spine, medium blocks, your choice. And similar, draw the left knee forward, draw the right knee back. Tall spine. And it's up to you if you want to take your arms up. Interlaced behind head is great, or reaching up. It's going to be tough on the back, so be careful. And breathe here. I'm going to come a little deeper down and up. So about 8 breaths here. Interlace hands, point fingers to sky. 2 more breaths, how about? Releasing as you're ready. And you might want to block for your forehead. Totally fine. Or you could stack your hands for your forehead. Just kind of find that final shape. And again, don't let the hips dump all the way to the floor. There's a little bit of drawing of left knee towards right knee. And you'll find just that little half an inch or inch of lift in the hips. That will do so much to keep our hips safe and strong. And if you like this pose, you could probably stay forever. But when you're ready, you may rise up. Come on out. And quick child's pose. How about just press back, knees wide, big toes touch. Hips, glutes to heels, and fold in. And if you want, you can take your hands back behind you, make this seed pod kind of a shape. And breathe here. Rising up. Nice and tall. Let's just do a quick seated twist. I'm going to sit on a block. You may sit on a block or a bolster or a cushion or something. Okay. When you're ready, let's just start Dandasana. My pant leg keeps rolling up. Sitting in Dandasana, legs extended. Now let's just take the right foot to the floor and up and over outside the left thigh. So you might keep it like this with that left leg extended. I don't know if I'm off camera on my foot, but it's there. The other option is to fold that left knee, bring the left heel kind of under your hip. Sitting nice and tall here. Scooching.
So this knee, if you're folding it, is kind of straight out in front of you. This right foot is coming in pretty close to that knee. Let's go ahead and inhale the left arm up. And exhale, we're going to wrap left elbow around knee and twist to the right. And that right hand can just come to the floor beside your hip or behind your back and lets you push, so we're not crumpling down and rounding, we're pushing up and rising up into our twist. And if you want to try this, a teacher of mine used to do this. That right hand, I'm going to bring it around, show you on the camera here. Right hand to my right or left ribs, side left ribs. And I'm going to, in my twist, right now, I'm going to use that right hand to draw myself further into the twist, pulling the ribs around, and also maybe moving a little bit of belly out of the way. And finding the twist, sitting tall. Again, eyes just kind of downward. With our exhales, letting the weight settle down into the support, into your seat. With the inhales, the spine can grow tall again. So you're balancing that kind of stability in the base with kind of a lightness in the head and the top. Preparing to unravel, come on back around, facing the front, extending both legs. Move them, bang them around, bounce those knees a few times if you like. And then we're going to take what left foot to the floor, up and over, outside right leg. And again, right leg can stay straight, totally fine to do the pose like that. Or you fold that right knee in, so like the right heel is kind of under the left hip or the perineum, really. All right, so we're sitting tall at first. Draw this left knee vertical, up. Inhale, right arm up. Exhale, wrap and twist. If you want to take your left hand to pull yourself into the pose a bit, always doing so very thoughtfully, paying attention to how you feel. You don't overdo the twist. And same, press down through your seat, up into your spine, tall, tall, tall. Breathing here. And we're just looking for stillness, stability. Just a couple more breaths. Unravel, release, soften, lots of ways to describe it. Come on back around to the front. How about just sit for a few breaths here before we come to our back on the floor. With our exhale, we get heavy. With our inhale, heart lifts, head lifts. But the hips, the legs stay strong, firm, and heavy on the floor. Releasing that pose when you're ready. And onto the ground we go. And you know what? Let's have a block nearby. Okay. So a block or something else to kind of boost ourselves up on. You'll see here in a second. Let's come on down. One more pose before Shavasana. So this is an opportunity to use a strap perhaps, but for starters, I'm going to take my block, whatever support you have, right under sacrum, right at the very bottom of the spine, behind the pelvis there. I always do. I take my arms and feet off the floor and make sure I feel stable, like I'm not going to tip off that support, right? Adjust the support, make sure you're well balanced and fine there, and land the feet down. So a couple versions here. You can do it like this. Just take hold of your mat perhaps. Walk your shoulder blades towards one another. Viparita Karani is what this is called. We're going to draw the knees up and just extend the legs skyward. This is where that position, because I can feel it's not quite right. So I'm going to come down and scoot that block up just a bit for myself and then back into the pose. Right, legs up, and that feels way more stable for me. So there's a bit of like an arch in the back right here. Legs are up, heels extend. Now you could use a strap too, because this can be actually fairly challenging. So in which case you would just take a strap or a belt of some sort around your feet. And that kind of helps support the legs staying up in the air. And then like this sort of position, maybe even have your elbows really to the floor more or less, or at least bent. So you're kind of like, it's like a dead weight. You're not really using too much effort on the strap there. Then we push up into the strap with our feet, draw down on the strap with our arms, and just kind of feel that sensation, the cascading action of this pose. This is kind of the queen of poses for settling Vata or balancing, pacifying Vata, lots of terms for it. And at home in your private practice, your own practice, you might stay like this for, 2, 3, 5 minutes. You could put your legs up the wall as another option. You just sort of scoot your block support right up to the wall, the baseboard, and just legs go up the wall. Great pose for the end of the day. When you're ready, come down, bend the knees, land very gently, softly. Move your support out of the way and come into your final resting pose. Whether that's Shavasana or some other pose you prefer. Again, release, soften. Maybe let your awareness just kind of scan through your body, looking for any resistance, residual tension. And where you find it, you just breathe and let your prana kind of flood to that area. And that's how we're just supportive of those tissues that might be having some trouble, right? Just hold them, nurture them, give them what they need. And eventually they'll, release or heal or kind of find their healthy state. And again, in a non-video practice, you might spend several minutes in Shavasana. But for the sake of today, I'm going to bring my feet to the floor, bend my knees, and I'm going to roll to my right side body. Take a few breaths here. And eventually, hands go to the floor, pushing myself up to a seated pose. Possibly on a block. I do recommend sitting up on something. And now you should be primed for a nice meditation if you want to stay put for 10, 15, 20 minutes or longer. Again, just finding the stability, the heaviness in the hips, heaviness in the legs, shins, feet to the floor. Inhale, heart lifts, head lifts, shoulders rise. Steady breaths, long exhale. And if you wish, bringing hands to heart, bowing gesture of gratitude to anything you're grateful for, rising up. And thank you for practicing.